There was a clear distinction between what you would call underground music and mainstream music, and that border has kind of vaporized, it's gone.
This episode of Music Not Diving is brought to you by Jägermeister's Save the Night. Born in 2020 as part of the emergency response to the pandemic, Save the Night has since grown into a global platform that provides support for people and ideas keeping nightlife alive. Through its annual fund, Jägermeister provides €156,000 to provide mentorship, funding, and visibility for a range of bold projects, from stuff like making dance floors more accessible, greener club nights, and amplifying voices from grassroots creative communities. Nightlife is more than just entertainment. It's culture, it's connection, it's community, and together we can protect it for the future. Applications are open right now for the Save the Night Fund. If you're a creative, a promoter, a venue owner, or just someone who cares deeply about making our culture safer, more inclusive, and just generally better, then this is your chance to bring your vision to life. Check out Jägermeister.com/exploration/save the night. That's Jägermeister.com/exploration/save the night. Music Not Diving is brought to you by Acid Nation. What is Acid Nation? Well, it is a direct-to-consumer platform. So if you're selling music as an artist or a label, or if you're a music fan just looking to buy direct from your favorite artists or labels, this is a great place for you to be. What is the difference between Acid Nation and other D2C platforms? Well, they have a ton of ancillary services, extras that they do that goes above and beyond the other players in this space. For example, they have their own pressing plant. They can fulfill vinyl orders on demand, ship them out directly to your fans. That is basically unprecedented in the sector. They have a streaming platform built into their platform, which pays out 1 cent per stream, the mythical 1 cent per stream, pretty amazing. They have free storage and a fulfillment service. So this is just a great thing, generally speaking. We use it for hot flush recordings. We couldn't recommend them highly enough. And of course, they're also supporting your favorite music podcast, which is of course this one. So I suggest you head over to acidnation.com and check them out.
This is Music Not Diving with Scuba.
Welcome to Music Not Diving. I'm Scuba. We're here at ADE at Bunk Hotel. So massive thanks to Bunk for hosting us for the series of podcasts that we're going to be doing here. I'm very happy to be joined by an institution of Dutch electronic music, Joris Voorn. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. You're being too kind.
Well, I mean, I'm here to be kind. We can get a bit, aggressive later on if you say.
We'll save it for later.
Absolutely. How's it going? What's going on?
Really good. ADE just started. This is my first of many fun things to come.
Okay.
So I'm fresh. So let's go.
Can you be more specific? What have you got coming up? ADE.
After this, I'm going to be doing a panel with, I believe, Hannah Lang and Armin van Buren. So in front of an audience, and then
on which topic?
I believe it is all about genres.
Okay.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Right.
Especially in this day and age.
The importance of such.
The importance or unimportance.
Right.
Yeah, I assume. We'll see.
Okay, that's okay. Put a pin in that. That's actually an interesting topic of conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that one. And then I'm doing I think that's about it for the talking. And then the rest will be a couple of shows here and there, radio shows, playing in a tram tomorrow, and then doing a couple of back-to-backs on Friday, and then Saturday my Awakening show, and that's it.
Right. Yeah. Nice. Really busy. I wanted to kick off by talking a bit about ADE, because the history of ADE kind of mirrors the history of your career, doesn't it, a bit? I mean,
in some way, yes. Yeah. I mean, ADE's been around, I believe, a bit longer. Professionally, I would say I started maybe like 20 odd years ago, 22 or something.
I've been, as we mentioned off camera, I've been listening to all your music this morning. The first release on Beatport is 2003, I think.
Possibly, yes.
Yeah, right. And I mean, an ADE, I believe it started mid-90s, but it was really building out at that.
Yeah, I think in the beginning it was just like 50 DJs and that was it. Yeah. To be honest, I remember playing even a bit later, let's say around 2007, I think I played somewhere in a basement, and then there were a few panels, and there were like a couple of hundred people walking around in the city, and that was it. But yeah, it's exploded since then.
And what would you, or how would you define a contribution that it's made to Amsterdam, but also I think, you know, to the Netherlands, generally speaking, as a place of dance music, I guess?
Yeah, I think in both ways it's been very important. You know, like when you see everyone in Ibiza in the season or anywhere in the summer, you know, you're all saying like, oh, let's meet up again during ADE, because that's kind of the big moment after kind of close to the end of the year, you know, and everyone's here, and there's so much happening, parties and talks. So I think the fact that it's become like the epicenter for dance music, at least for this month, you know, it's just a very important place where everyone meets, and I believe people are doing business. I'm not doing so much myself, but
yeah, right.
I think a lot of stuff happens.
It's the endless week of meetings, isn't it? The meetings which should quite easily be conducted over email, but are better with a beer or
for sure,
something else, right? Yeah. Interesting you mentioned Ibiza. I think the last time I saw you, I was trying to think about this, but before we got started, because we haven't seen each other for ages.
Yeah, it's been a long time.
I think the last time was backstage at Ushuaia.
Very possibly, yes, I do remember.
I mean, yeah, that was...
I guess you played Ants as well at the time.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. It's more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So did you do much on the island this summer?
Yeah, I did a lot actually. I played there, I wouldn't say every week, but it feels like it at least. I think at least 10, 12 shows or something. Like various places. I played Ants as well, Ushuaia, Universe, High, in both rooms.
What was Universe like? Because that's obviously the new...
It's pretty massive. I played El Ro twice. So you can't. So it's kind of the El Ro show. It's kind of hard to see the space because every single crevice is being covered up with confetti and like colorful stuff. So I'm not sure if that's the best time to really see the club, even though the party itself is amazing. Yeah.
Right. And the island generally. I mean, this is a kind of recurring talk conversation on the show. How the health of the Ibiza, I suppose, is the best way of putting it. Like, people are constantly writing it off, and like writing its obituary, and it seems to
people have been doing that stuff so many years. Right. Like, it seems to be a recurring thing every single year, and like it's just one of those things.
There was a there's an account on Twitter which tweets pages from Music magazine, MUZ. I can remember that magazine from the 90s.
Yeah.
And they tweeted a page which was an article written by Ben Turner.
Okay.
In 1996.
Yeah.
And the headline is Ibiza dead? Right. So like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
A long time ago.
I know it's still going strong, and it seems to be going stronger and stronger, even though it's changed a lot.
How's it changed? How would you?
When I came there for the first time, I used to play Space mostly, and
on Sundays.
On Sundays, yeah, for We Love.
Yeah.
It was pretty easy going. There wasn't much superstardom going on. Also, there was a clear distinction between what you would call underground music and mainstream music, and that border is kind of vaporized. It's gone. Everything is kind of mixed up. Like, what used to be underground is now mainstream, or has become mainstream, or I don't know, it's a big melting pot of everything. Yeah. It seems to be a lot of tech house actually.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Okay. I mean, what you just said there, but the fact that it has seemingly become a lot more crushed together, I suppose, is the basis of the genre discussion, right?
Because it could be, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then, go on. What are you planning to say later at this genre discussion? What's going to be your...
What I'm going to say later today, I mean, I don't know. It kind of depends on the questions and where the conversation will take itself. But, I've been someone who's always been very open to different kinds of music. I played at the very early stages of my DJ career, in which I was just trying to find the music that I liked the most. I used to play acid, psytrance, trance, techno, house, trip hop, drum and bass, jungle, every single musical genre you can think of. Like, at least I have a few records. I still have like quite a significant amount of drum and bass. But very quickly on, I kind of realized my favorite music was house and techno, and really the combination of these two. And I think that came kind of from listening to guys like Derek May and Kevin Saunderson, mixing these two genres really well together, you know, playing DJ Sneak into a Surgeon record, for instance. For me, you know, this is kind of what I grew up on musically. And in that sense, I've been always very open to genres, and it's only became more extreme. I think I still play a lot of different things. Like, you can put me in any room and I can play the music that I'm supposed to.
Do you think the way people think about music and the way the audience, I mean, music fans, do you think that their relationship with the these kind of like boxes that music gets put in, you know, the kind of genre boxes, do you think that's changed significantly over time? Because I suppose that's what people are getting at when they say, oh, genres are less important. And people do often say that. I'm slightly unconvinced of that as a thesis. But I mean, what do you think about the way people think about it?
Well, you know, you can say it in it has to do with different things, of course. Like if you talk about DJs and their style of music they play, then most DJs have a more defined genre. You know, it's either tech house or house or melodic techno or whatever it is. But there's not so many DJs that play a little bit of everything. That's kind of old school. But I do feel like a lot of people, they just go to whatever party is on. You know, one day they go to David Guetta, the next they go to Elro, the next, if we're talking about Ibiza, of course.
Sure.
The next one they go to DC10. You know, it could be anything. They're just open for the experience, which I think in itself is fine. And that's, to be honest, I think that's kind of how dance music started as well. No one was, you know, in the early 90s came to the club and be like, this record is good, this one not so much. And you know, it was kind of
that definitely developed over time, didn't it?
Yeah, and I think that the chin stroking is something that kind of came along at some point, that became a thing, you know, where people were like, I'm not so sure about the hi-hats in this one.
There is a place for that. I don't think we could completely dismiss chin stroking as a force for good in dance music, but there could be too much of it, though.
I think one thing I've done quite early in my career is trying to get rid of. I didn't really do it on purpose, but it just happened along the way. I kind of got rid of purism.
Okay.
I kind of stepped away from trying to be or wanting to be a purist in music. I think maybe this is because I started in the 90s, and because, you know, a lot of my musical dance, at least speaking about dance music DNA is, you know, consists of so many genres. You know, there was a lot of house music that I loved, even the not necessarily more mainstream, but like clubby house music, you know, is something I still really love. And then at the same time, I loved like Plastic Man and for instance Surgeon or Luke Slater and stuff. And so I think for me, and there's all these different kinds of genres going back to that. And I think purism can be quite narrow-minded, where it's just about like, this is the music I like, and everything else is less cool or is not okay. Or, you know, I love to be more open. And I think, to be honest, I think this is something that maybe has served me as well, because I mean, I'm still around. I've seen so many colleagues who have been stuck in their ways a bit more, just, you know, like drifting off, and suddenly their music has been a little bit less important in the global music scene. And then I think if you're a bit more flexible and you're open to genres, you can really kind of come along, you know, and get inspired as well. I think in the end, it's also about inspiration, and inspiration can come from anything and anywhere. But I you know, if you're only getting inspired by your own pool of artists, I think that kind of leads to dead ends.
Yeah, and it's always very obvious when someone has been a purist and then decides that they want to do something completely different.
Yeah.
Usually coinciding with that thing becoming popular.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think the time when this happened in the most obvious way was probably when, like 20 years ago, when minimal hits.
I knew this was coming, yeah.
Yeah, but this was like a shockwave to the world of techno, at least, you know, like, and all these hard techno DJs were like, what the hell we're gonna do now? You know, like, what is this? Like
minimal, basically.
Yeah, they all started to play their version of minimal. And to be honest, like it led to some interesting music because. So I think some artists definitely succeeded in doing this the right way, and I think some kind of simply refused, and some others just kept doing what they were doing.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, techno specifically as a genre seems to attract purists or people with the purist mentality anyway.
Yeah.
And as much amongst the audience as amongst the people making it themselves. I mean, there are I've definitely heard it suggested that there are rules with techno. For example, I mean, the funniest one thing I've heard is that if there is a clap on the 2 and the 4, then it can't be techno.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
I seems taking it a little bit more, to be honest.
I've never heard about that one, but that's interesting. It's funny because one of the artists that was a really big inspiration for me personally was always Jeff Mills, and he used to play a lot of records. Maybe his own music wasn't so much with the clap on the 2 and the 4, but it's like he used to play a lot of clubby records, and you know there's a lot of like. Straight beats on there. Yeah.
Okay, you're about 15 minutes into this episode, so well done for sticking around so long. I'm just going to take this opportunity to tell you about the ways you can support the show if you're enjoying what we're doing here. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/scubaofficial. You can donate to us with a one-off donation too, if you like, scubaofficial.io/support. But what we really want you to do actually is just like this video and leave a comment. Tell us what you think of it. Honestly, everyone says that, but it really does make a difference. And with that, thanks. We're on a shorter time schedule than we are normally on these episodes. Normally we can go as long as we want, but I've got to be slightly mindful of time. Actually, what I wanted you to talk to you mostly about during this conversation was actually albums and your albums, generally speaking. And actually, it kind of ties into what you were saying, because as I was listening this morning to all of them in a row, which is an enjoyable experience, it's quite remarkable how impervious you seem to have been to changes in popular styles over the time. So the first one came out in 2004.
Yeah,
and actually there is remarkable stylistic similarity throughout all of them. I mean, obviously there is developments and they sound a little bit different and stuff, but it's very definitely you. And the broad stylist direction of all of the records, all 5 of them, is consistent. I mean, is that something? Is that been a conscious thing that you've tried to do? Like, there is definitely there's no sop to minimal or whatever stylistic, trend was popular at the time.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because for me, like all of these albums sound like vastly different from one another.
I'm sure they do to you because you're deep in the weeds. I know how it feels. Because
sometimes I feel like I should have a more consistent sound in some way, but I guess, it's always me behind the knobs and
I think
the faders.
Have a consistent sound though.
I guess, but like once it's your own sound, I mean, from my own personal experience, like it's kind of hard to see that or hear that.
Right. Sure.
So I guess I do, and sometimes people come up to me, they say like, "We love your particular sound," and I'm like, I don't know what that even is because I make so many different things. Okay. But I guess it still creeps in there. There must be some kind of musical and sound aesthetic, I guess. That is a part of what I do. I don't know, but I don't really have an answer. Okay, I don't know how that happens.
Yeah, sure. I mean, has the format, generally speaking, always been something which is key to you? Because I mean, like the first one came out quite soon after your first ever release, right?
Yeah,
2004 was the first one. Like, you hadn't released a ton before that, right?
True. Yeah, I think I've grown up listening to albums. I think anyone from my generation has. And even also for dance music artists, there were great dance music albums in the 90s and early 2000s. For me, it was like a natural thing to start working on one. And at some point, I just had so much music that I thought, this could be an album, and I just picked like a bunch of tracks that I made over the years and made that into an album. But I never really at least at that time, I never sat down thinking like I need to write an album in 3 months. But I love the concept of the album. I think just mostly from an artistic and personal perspective.
How long had you been making tunes before you had your first release?
Well, it kind of depends what you would define as making tunes. I remember buying a groove box, the Roland, I don't know if you remember this thing, the Roland MC303
I've read you talking about it in previous interviews. Yeah, I never had one of those things, but it seemed like pretty fun.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like I didn't know anything about. It's just a short funny story about it because I read somewhere in a book about techno music that you're supposed to make techno music with a 303. I had no idea what the hell the 303 was, so I went to the local music store in my student city, and then I said, like, "Do you guys have this?" And it sounds like a joke almost, like a rabbit going to the store. Do you have carrots?
yeah, right, okay.
Anyways, I said,
because the groove I was saying was the Roland kind of, I guess they called it a 303 was to capitalize on the fact that everyone was talking about the old one, right?
Yeah, so I think because of the fame of acid music, they kind of brought back a very watered down version of what the original 303 was. Anyway, long story short, I bought the 303. It was a crap thing, but it could make everything. It had drums and synthesizers.
Yeah, it was like a little workstation.
Yeah, it was like a little workstation, and the more sounds you programmed, the sounds, the overall sound was. I mean, those times for making music were interesting, but that particular thing wasn't great. Anyway, so I played around with that for about 4 years, and then in 2000 I started making music with my first computer.
Okay, and was that a conscious decision that you'd made to get serious, as it were? Or like,
I don't know. I guess so. I mean, I not really. Maybe. I needed a computer for my studies as an interior designer. And then I was like,
hey, okay, that's a plot twist, right?
Yeah. And then I was like, you know what? I ended up using my G4, my Mac G4, mostly for making music, actually. And I don't know, it was, it just happened, sometimes things just go the way they go. I didn't have any ambitions becoming like a famous producer or something. I never thought that was in the stars for me, so.
Were you DJing at the time as well?
I was, yeah. I started DJing like a few years before I released my first music. Yeah, I was DJ first.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you playing out regularly?
Yeah, like in a student club mostly, but I was playing regularly. But I wasn't famous in any way or something.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it just kind of happened. I mean, the way you tell it is some accidental thing.
No, like it kind of did. I moved from one student city in the Netherlands, really small one, to Rotterdam, which is a bigger city. And in that small city where I lived, I had my shows and people knew me. But I moved to Rotterdam. Everyone was a DJ already, and there's no way whatsoever to get a foot in the door. No one was interested in getting giving a nobody a chance, So I just ended up making a lot of music in my room, and that's it basically. And then
presumably you started sending it to labels and got
kind of, yeah. I think I just met some people, and they were like, "Oh, this is cool music. Let's put it out." And then instantly, the first record was played by DJs like Carl Craig and stuff. And once that happened, people started to take notice, which is fair enough. I mean, I wouldn't have given myself a chance if I would run a club or a club night, and somebody just comes knocking at the door. There were plenty of DJs at the time.
To what extent was this a surprise to you that it did well?
Still, yeah, this was a big surprise. I don't think I've ever really been super confident. At least in that time, I wasn't so confident about my music. It was all kind of made on my computer. It didn't sound a bit crappy, and I don't know. I didn't think it was anything special. No, honestly, I'm really not joking. It's not clickbait.
Okay, take your word for it. I mean, the first record. I mean, actually, there's a track on it. I mean, I said that you've got a consistent sound. There's a track on it called "Incident," which is a kind of proper jacking.
That's not the very first one, but that was like third or fourth one or something.
Yeah. On the record, yeah. I hadn't heard that before today. It's
really?
It's a great tune. Yeah,
that was a big track at the time. Ryan Cox used to hammer it for all his main stage shows.
Yeah,
that was kind of the record that got me on.
That was the important one, was it?
Yeah, that was the big track.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
absolutely, because it is. Yeah, it's a banger. But as I said, undermining my previous point about your consistent sound, doesn't sound like a Joris Voorn track of today at all.
Yeah, it's funny because that was really the big track, that was the track that got me into Japan and stuff. And when I played that one the first time I came to Japan, like the whole room exploded. I was like, what the hell's going on?
They knew it.
It was a really big record at the time.
Okay. That's a strange feeling. the first time you play out a track of yours and you realize that people actually know what it is and are reacting to it?
Yeah.
Because not just because it's great, but because they know it's great. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, yeah, that was an interesting time.
So, instant success basically on putting out tunes. And then, just to carry on with the kind of theme of the albums, like you have released an album regularly.
Yeah.
Then, I mean, every 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So how has your thinking about them developed over time up to the most recent one, which is By the Sound of Things, a very personal piece of work actually.
Yeah.
But before we get to that, tell me about the intervening period, because this is like coincides with you becoming, pretty established, increasingly successful, which it must have been by the sound of things. By the sound of things, kind of just a series of surprises.
Yeah. No, I mean, honestly, I think I just kept making music, and I always tried making things that kind of surprised myself. As I mentioned earlier, I've always been interested in many different sounds and genres, and I've been trying to make records that maybe sounded like someone else, whose music I really, really loved, and newer genres came up, and I tried to get inspired. There's never been a shortage of inspiration for me personally. So I always made a lot of music. I think of all the music I made, probably 1% got released. So I had a big pile of music to put into an album at some point. That's kind of how my albums came to exist.
So you've never kind of sat down to write one?
I've been wanting to. It's just never.
Right.
I don't know. That never really worked out.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I've managed to do that once, and
which one was that?
Actually, the last one that came out, which was 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I've actually been trying to write the next one ever since. So I basically had a few attempts at sitting down to write the next one, and total failure.
Maybe that kind of proves my point, that once you go and sit down, you're like, okay, this has happened now. I'm not sure if that would work.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm more someone who just plays around. I just make a little tests when I'm on a plane or anywhere, and then I put it away. I don't touch it. It's funny. I was watching a Look Slater video this week. I think he was talking in the studio about how he makes music and stuff. He kind of does the same thing. Just plays around with stuff, and then he just puts it away, and then he listens 3 months later back to it, and he's like, oh, this sounds kind of cool, then builds on it. That's kind of how I make music as well.
I mean, definitely coming back to stuff is important. I mean, because the tendency is obviously when you work on something, you're quite, deep in the weeds with it. And then with a bit of space, just in a second, whether it's worth persevering with or not, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We had Luke on the show actually a while back.
Oh, nice.
Before we started doing video. And we had a long conversation about long tracks, because obviously he's done quite a few of these crazy, like 15-minute plus or even 20-minute plus kind of jams. And he said something really, really great, which was like, sometimes nothing happens and that's the point. Sometimes that's the whole point of a tune.
Yeah.
Is that it takes a very, very long time to develop. I mean, I absolutely love Luke. I think
I think for techno, that's definitely something. As it's more conceptual music, and a lot of great records have been made that are very minimal, that when kind of nothing happens, like all the basic channel stuff, even like Luke's on music.
Sure.
There's just not a whole lot happening. But I don't know if that's because they were in the studio just really vibing to the tracks, or the tracks were maybe more like tools to play out. I don't even know if Luke ever really thought about his records to be, I don't know, we're talking about Luke Slater now, but
that's okay, we can talk about Luke.
I don't know if he made his records thinking they would be DJ records, I have a feeling he just makes his music and he's like, this really rocks, this is great, let's just put it down and record it and we're done.
Yeah.
That's at least how his music sounds. It doesn't sound like it's made for DJs.
Yeah, right. It's never put together in that kind of like, grid, like DJ friendly kind of format. You might have a drop at some point that seems to be in the right place, but apart from that, it's not like the kind of 32 bar, chunks or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, this is a thing which coming back to your albums. one of the things that's kind of gradually come more into it is the songwriting aspect, which is kind of the opposite of this, you know, and then the kind of putting things together in a way which makes more sense in that kind of a way. I think that was the first. I'm blanking on the name of the tunes now, but I think the third album was the first one where that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, nobody knows.
Talk about that a bit.
Yeah. Well, Nobody Knows is from 2014, I believe. I think I moved to Amsterdam, and I built myself a new little studio, and I was just listening to a lot of different music. And I bought myself a guitar and a bass guitar, and I got a lot more into kind of indie electronic music. And I was just making a lot of things in my studio, and a lot of music that I would never, ever in a million years play in any of my DJ sets. But I just felt like, you know, I had the luxury to spend time on making music that was maybe not going to be listened to by anyone else at any time. But I think in the end, there were a few tracks that I thought were very nice, and I sent them to some people like Matthew Deere. He was
Matthew.
He sang on one of the tunes, and Kid A, an American singer. And that's kind of how these tracks kind of became songs. You know, they were never intended to be songs, but that's just what happened. And I like the process, and I think that it made the record into something special. I think what coincided with that is that dance music, maybe the more popular underground dance music, it was more common to use vocals. There was a lot more collaborations with different artists, and vocals just became a lot more present. Yeah. And back in the days, like, I used to never play vocals because I thought they were cheesy, or whatever the reason was. There were only few records that had successfully featured vocals on house.
Yeah, right. Certainly not like full vocal.
Yeah, not like actual song, sing-along song. But
what do you put that down to? I mean, my instinct is the EDM thing happened, and that made that whole, I guess the audience expectation of what was going to get played changed in a subtle way, and that bled into more quote unquote serious music.
Yeah.
Fair, do you think? I don't know.
I'm not sure. I never gave that a thought. I wouldn't think EDM had anything to do with it, because I think artists like me, we kind of wanted to step away from EDM as far as we possibly could.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think maybe the certain elements of it, and that, you know, at almost a subconscious level, you know, I'm not saying we're trying to be like EDM. That's not what I mean at all. It's like, and also, as I said, from the perspective of the audience, maybe people are a little bit more used to having that as something which happened in a club record.
Yeah. I think maybe what it could also be, it's kind of the pursuit of the perfect vocal track. And as I said, there's not a lot of great records.
It's
I think,
hard to do.
Yeah. I think there's the remix that Carl Craig did for Express 2. What is it? Something 100. I mean, that's one track where it's kind of like raw techno music with a very singer-songwriter type vocal on top. And there's not many that are this good, you know, but if it's good, it's really a standout track.
Yeah.
And I think it's always the search for this moment, but it more often than not, it doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, going back to the audience thing, what were fans of your music, the fans of the preview, your first two albums, how did they react to, it wasn't a complete change of direction, but adding that kind of stuff into it? Like,
I'm not so sure about, I think at the time, and what the response from people wasn't as instant as now, you know, with social media was just only...
yeah, you didn't have anything like you on Instagram.
No, exactly. Yeah, it wasn't so obvious. However, a couple of years before that, I remixed Swedish House Mafia, because I think the guys were a big fan of my more tech house sound, which I made and played a lot at the time, and they asked me to remix their track, that big track at the time, the piano, something with Childs.
I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah. But I remixed that. And then I remember getting an open letter in the Netherlands.
This letter?
From someone who really appreciated my music back in the days, and he thought it was necessary I think he was part of a
Did he take out a page in a local newspaper or something?
almost, yeah. Well, he was a journalist for one of the blogs, or one of the leading blogs at that time, and he thought it was necessary to write me an open letter saying like, oh, you used to be so much better, and now you
Cool, yours.
used to be cool, and now you're kind of remixing EDM and stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, that did happen. I think
Survived.
I survived. I was like, yeah, okay, sure, we can't please everyone always.
Right.
But I think that album, the Nobody Knows album, people appreciated the artistry, and it wasn't a cheesy album. There were more songs on it. But I think, to be honest, I listened back to it a couple months ago, and I really enjoyed it. Sometimes it's nice to not listen to your music for a couple of years.
Yeah, and you come back to it and like,
yeah, you're like, oh, not so bad. And sometimes you're like, oh, maybe that 808 pick.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And yeah, great to have Matt on there. He's also been on the podcast.
Oh, nice.
We had a long conversation about aliens.
Okay.
Bizarrely enough, that's what he wanted to talk about instead of music. But
yeah, nice.
Absolutely. So yeah, tell me about the new record, because as mentioned, it's a very personal piece of work by the sound of things.
Yeah, I guess it is.
I say new. It's come out. It came out in June.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say that's new, but the music industry kind of like cycle.
Yeah, I feel like it's like people have forgotten about it already.
That's a good opportunity to remind them.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's my most accessible album so far.
Serotonin.
Yeah, Serotonin. I think it's personal in the sense that it was made during the music was made during a period where I lost both my parents. I wouldn't say the album, that's the theme of the album or something, but it kind of creeps in there like inevitably. I went back to my parents' house just before it was sold to make music. It was a really big old farm, renovated in a very special way. My father used to have his office, or like his writing spots, because he used to be a composer, in the middle of the house with a beautiful light and everything. And I was like, I'm just going to bring my electronic stuff, synthesizers and stuff, and put it on the spot where he used to make his music, and try to see if I can get inspiration. So that's what happened, and some of those tracks ended up on the album.
Yeah, right. Amazing. What kind of stuff did your dad do?
He was more contemporary classical composer. He didn't understand the repetitive nature of techno music in any way. So we couldn't really speak about music. Although on the album I mentioned previously, Nobody Knows, he collaborated on one of the tracks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which was super nice, very special. I would have actually loved to do more like that, but it just didn't happen.
Yeah, sure. So the rest of the record, tell me a bit more about it. Because it is, like you say, it's accessible, and there are definitely songs, there's featured vocals going on.
Yeah.
And actually, I noticed what you've got is like there's a, on Spotify, I know, or on streaming, careful what I say about Spotify, and there's basically two different versions of each track, right? There's the kind of like the shortest kind of 3.5 versions, and then the kind of this extended version.
Yeah, I think this is something you can't really get around these days, With streaming, you kind of need to adapt to the short attention span of the algorithm or the listener. I don't know. I mean, I've made my opinion about it, but
that's a contentious issue in itself.
Yeah, I think you just kind of have to play the game. So that's why there's two different versions, and obviously the what they call extended versions, which is not the extended version, because
that's the real version.
Yeah, that's the real version. Those are more for DJing, if people like. Yeah.
And how did you do the collabs, generally speaking? Have you generally speaking been passing stems between each kind of a person, or like
I guess so, like, or I just send like a demo version and then I get back some vocals. I've also been in the studio with a couple of artists, and we wrote some things together, which is super nice. First time I've ever done that. And something I would love to do again, like there's something special about sitting in the same room as the singers and seeing them like scribble something on a pad, and then within 5 minutes they write a whole.
Yeah, how much have you done?
Almost as fast as AI.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, well, that's another.
Let's not go there.
Maybe we'll talk about that. Maybe we'll finish up with AI. But yeah. So how much of that writing stuff have you done? I mean, I actually had a really interesting conversation with Reva Starr about that on the show, and he was talking about doing these big kind of writer sessions in LA with like people like you know booking a studio for a day, and like people turn up for an hour and do a little thing, and then I mean, to be honest, for me that sounds like a complete nightmare.
Yeah, that's what I thought as well, and I think it really depends on the artist and the vibe. And we were situated in a studio by from Armada, and it was actually really nice. It looked very homey, and it felt really okay, and all the artists were super nice, and there was like a nice vibe, and I felt we were really connecting musically, and that's very important. Because if it's just someone who comes in and kind of is like in between and whatever,
Sure.
and then the magic needs to happen, that's challenging. But you never know. That's kind of the point, like you can spend 3 days doing a writer's camp, as I call it, and maybe only one tune comes out of it, and then I think that could be worth it.
Absolutely is worth it. Yeah, because I mean, the magic, as it were, is very, I mean, it's elusive. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can wait a long time for it,
You can, yeah. And sometimes it just doesn't happen. Not that I'm an expert, because I've done this only once, but
sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, just even working on your own, I've said this on the show many times before. The process of being a producer to a large extent is sitting around waiting for it to arrive, doing the work, and eventually sometimes it happens, and sometimes it happens regularly for you, and sometimes you have to wait a lot longer.
Yeah,
it's a very long time.
I think this is just a matter of being in the right headspace, or I mean, the one thing you're constantly doing when you're writing music or making music, whatever you want to call it, because it's a process, it's technical, it can, even if it's on a computer, it's still very technical. You need to know a lot of stuff if you're not only using samples. So it's a creative process, and you're constantly making decisions. Am I doing this with this synthesizer? Am I using that preset, or am I changing this? Am I creating my own bass line? And at the same time, you're kind of trying to create some magic and some emotion. And there's a lot going on, actually. And that's not an easy process. And it's kind of crazy that it actually does happen.
Yeah, I know. It's a miracle, really, that it happens.
If you're a singer-songwriter, you just have your guitar or something, or a piano, and your voice, and that's it. You don't need to be an engineer. You don't need to be a drum programmer, or a sound designer, or a mixing engineer. Or did I say that already? But those are all things you kind of have to be to some extent making electronic music. And that's not always easy.
No, absolutely. So, let's do a little bit on AI to finish up, because it sort of ties in with that. Because I mean, there are a number of angles to the AI debate in music. I mean, obviously there is the, the AI slop tracks thing side of it, but there's also, a ton of plugins now which use AI algorithms. There's a lot of different tools that you can use as a producer, I think, broadly speaking, with a clear conscience. But that is a point of debate as well. I don't know. I mean, what has your exposure and interest been? I mean, have you played around, for example, with Suno and all that kind of?
Yeah, I have. There's some. I mean, you said it well. There's so many different ways of using AI in music. Like when the first home computers arrived in the 80s, I wasn't around to. I mean, I was born, but I wasn't around then. But I'm sure people were skeptical as well.
I can guarantee you.
And synthesizers. I mean, to be honest,
samplers.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of electronic music when I was a teenager or something. I remember I was a big Queen fan, and it would specifically say on there, and I was a liner notes reader as well, and it would always say, for this album, no synthesizers have been used.
Really?
And it's no joke. Can you imagine? I mean, that's...
Yeah, right. I mean, one great Freddie Mercury piece of trivia, which it may be completely apocryphal, but apparently he was able to sing 2 vocal takes, and they were so similar that they would phase.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing. Yeah. So no messing around with like auto-tune or whatever. Like you could just bang one out. And
no, for sure. But that was in that time when people were being skeptical about technology in music.
Yep.
And nowadays, obviously, people are again. But now it's kind of gone to a next level to a level where I'm not really sure where this is going. Like the other day, I was on Beatport looking for music for this week, and at some point there was the one artist, and he had like 20 releases on one day. All the artwork looked fairly similar, all different tracks, and it all sounded the same, and it all sounded like it was music, but it didn't emotionally connect in any way. So this is just obviously just Suno, someone just writing 3 prompts and then thinking he can just release it all on Beatport. The problem is it's on Beatport, it's for sale, and there is no I think this is something Beatport should do. So Beatport, if you're listening, they should just have verified artists nowadays, because you just don't know who's real or not.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely a kind of hot topic, the extent to which AI music needs to be labeled and whose responsibility should it be. I think label it.
That's a point of discussion. But I think this is a point where I'm starting to find it quite annoying that I might be buying. I mean, I think it's quite genre dependent, because underground techno, there's no one making underground techno with AI, luckily, at least as far as I can tell. But when it comes down to the more melodic house and techno, there's a lot, I think, and people are using a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, techno, generally speaking, seems to be pretty vulnerable to this kind of approach. Because of the nature of the music.
Yeah,
like it seems like it would be a pretty easy thing to do.
Yeah, but I think AI is it's just another tool. If you use it well, it can be great. I'm just very curious where this is going, because it's already so scary in a sense that you can't really distinguish whether it's a human being or AI. That's somewhat problematic.
Do you have a prediction for us, just to finish? Where's music going to go with AI? What's the relationship going to be?
I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if all these hours that I'm putting into making music are hours well spent.
I've heard so many people say that exact thing. Yeah.
Is this maybe there's going to be in 2 years or something. It could be very fast that you don't need to bring your USB anymore. You just you have a little keyboard where you just type your prompts, and you're like, what track should I play next? I feel like this kind of tech house track or blah blah. You just prompt it, and then it just plays it for you.
We can't end on this. That can't be the end of the podcast. Is there a version of the future that you can see which is a bit more optimistic? What's the kind of best case scenario, do you think, for these technological developments?
The best case scenario. I mean, I think when it comes to, I just watched a really good Diaries of the CEO podcast about AI, and it was grim.
Yeah, right. I've watched. Yeah, I've watched the same one. Yeah,
it was pretty grim, and that's not even about music. I think for music, we're facing a time where there's a chance that if you're a good prompter, you can be very successful in music. I think in the end, people will always want to see a DJ on stage if they're going to a party. So that's the good news. So I think DJs will be okay because we're performing artists, that's good. But as a recording producer, it's going to be tough. And I can't predict where this is going, because, developments are going so ridiculously fast. I think now at this point, you can still hear when something is made in the computer, because, for instance, like on a technical level, the kick drums sound a bit swooshy, like there's no definition, the same definition that you will find in a well-produced record, at least in dance music, maybe.
So I've heard it speculated that the reason for that is that the models have been trained on low bitrate MP3s.
So maybe it is, but then it's going to be fairly easy to make it sound better.
Sure. Oh yeah. I mean,
I don't think that's going to take. If they can get this far, then the last 10% is going to be a home run. But honestly, I don't know. I'm sure
it's not optimistic. Or...
No, I'm not. I'm not super optimistic about this. And I think the art of creating music is something that is very personal for everyone. I make music because I love it. And I'm super grateful that that I've been able to do this for the love of music. And I just hope people in the best case, people will always keep making music because they love it, because they feel the need for it. And it's one way of expressing themselves. It would be such a shame, if no one, if the love for actual music is lost like this. And also if innovation in music is lost, even though I'm sure AI has an answer to that as well at some point. Even though because now it's trained on existing music, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm very sure that very soon it will make things that we as humans could have never ever thought about.
Well, that's potentially an interesting development at the very least. Listen, Joris, this has been great. Thanks very much for coming on, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
Music, not diving, with Scuba.